The formation of the Soviet Union in 1922 was the result of years of political upheaval, revolution, and civil war in the former Russian Empire. Emerging from the chaos of World War I and the Russian revolutions of 1917, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics (USSR) became one of the most influential states of the 20th century. Background: the collapse of the Russian Empire. By the early 20th century, the Russian Empire was struggling with deep social and economic problems. Tsar Nicholas II ruled an autocratic system that left little room for political reform. Industrial workers faced harsh conditions, peasants lived in poverty, and ethnic minorities sought greater autonomy. World War I worsened these problems. Military defeats, food shortages, and economic collapse led to widespread unrest. In February 1917, mass protests in Petrograd forced Tsar Nicholas II to abdicate, ending over 300 years of Romanov rule. The Bolshevik Revolution of 1917. After the Tsar's fall, a provisional government attempted to rule Russia, promising reforms and elections. However, it failed to withdraw from World War I or address land and food shortages. At the same time, workers' councils known as Soviets gained influence. In October 1917, the Bolshevik Party, led by Vladimir Lenin, overthrew the provisional government in a coup known as the October Revolution. The Bolsheviks promised peace, land, and bread, and began building a socialist state based on Marxist ideology. Civil War and the rise of Soviet power. From 1918 to 1921, Russia was engulfed in a brutal civil war between the Bolshevik Red Army and various opposing forces known as the White Army, supported by foreign powers such as Britain, France, and the United States. The Bolsheviks eventually won due to strong organization, control of central regions, and effective leadership. During this period, the Bolsheviks created new socialist republics in territories once part of the Russian Empire, including Ukraine, Belarus, and the Transcaucasian region. These republics were closely tied to Moscow but technically separate states. The need for a union. By the early 1920s, the Bolshevik leadership faced the challenge of governing a vast and diverse territory. Different regions had varying languages, cultures, and levels of economic development. Lenin and other leaders believed that a formal union of socialist republics would strengthen political control, promote economic cooperation, and spread socialist ideology. There was debate within the Communist Party over how this union should be structured. Joseph Stalin, then People's Commissar for Nationalities, favored strong central control, while Lenin supported a more federal system to avoid alienating non-Russian nationalities. The creation of the USSR in 1922. On December 30, 1922, representatives from 4 socialist republics, the Russian Soviet Federative Socialist Republic (RSFSR), the Ukrainian SSR, the Belarusian SSR, and the Transcaucasian Socialist Federative Soviet Republic, formally agreed to unite. They signed the Treaty on the Creation of the USSR, establishing the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. The new state was officially founded as a socialist federation, with each republic theoretically having the right to leave the Union. Moscow became the capital, and the Communist Party held ultimate political power. Significance of the Soviet Union's formation. The creation of the USSR marked the birth of the world's first socialist state. It reshaped global politics, inspired communist movements worldwide, and eventually became a superpower rivaling the United States during the Cold War. Although the Soviet Union would later face internal contradictions and collapse in 1991, its formation in 1922 remains a turning point in modern history. The Soviet Union was formed through revolution, war, and political compromise. Born out of the ruins of the Russian Empire, it represented a bold attempt to build a new social and political system. Understanding its formation helps explain much of the political and ideological conflict that shaped the 20th century.